All right. Live here on several platforms. Going to wait a couple of minutes for people to jump in here. But we are doing a live podcasting workshop here. Going to just go through start to finish just what a great podcast episode. And it's not as complicated as you think. We're going to look through here. Just kind of get everybody in, get everybody settled in. We'll get started here in a couple of seconds. But yeah, like I said, just going to go through start to finish what it takes to build a podcast episode. If you're interested in it, I know a lot of people are interested in having a podcast, but a lot of people think it's too complicated, too difficult. Maybe they don't think they're tech savvy enough, whatever it is. It's really not that hard. And we're going to go through and show it today. So thank you wherever you're checking in, whether you're over here on TikTok, or you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. We are here and we're going to probably spend about 30 minutes run through this. I'm going to go everything from topic selection, talk about some equipment, and then we're going to record an episode, a short episode of our podcast, the Law Firm Marketing Minute. Usually those episodes are only about 10 minutes long anyway, but yeah, I'll even show you how to upload it, post-production, all that. And it's really not super difficult. It doesn't have to be some high-level NPR style production by any means. So, if at any point I can see everybody in the chat for the other platforms, TikTok, I'm going to have to kind of go back and forth. So hopefully if anybody has any questions or comments in the chat there, I can get to those. But if not, just kind of ask again and I'll try to look over them from time to time and see it. But other than that, let's jump in. So first thing, obviously, when you're talking about building a podcast is the equipment you're going to use, right? You really don't need a lot, right? You need a computer, which I think most everyone has. If you don't have a computer, that's the thing you should address first before thinking about doing a podcast. But from there, you just need a microphone. So if you're on the mainstream here, you can kind of see my setup. I have an extra setup. I'm not going to lie. You don't need all of this, but I'll kind of shift the TikTok people over here a little bit. All you need is a microphone. All right. This piece right here is my microphone. It's a Blue Yeti. A lot of fancy podcast snobs dump all over Blue microphones, and I don't get it. I mean, the quality is good. They're easy to use, easy to set up. You don't need to be some audio engineer to do it. You don't need to spend $500 on an SM57 or anything like that. These run, this microphone in particular is about $120. You can also get a Blue Snowball for like 50 or 60. All of those are going to be good enough quality, right? So that's all you need. They come with a stand that usually sits on your tabletop. That works too. But if you want to get a boom arm, you want to get pop filters, wind screens, all that kind of stuff, that's totally fine too. Obviously, I do a lot of podcasting. Part of my job, we host 2 podcasts here at Spotlight Branding. So I have a little bit of a nicer setup. But again, if you're just starting out, you don't need it. You just get the microphone in front of you, hook it up to your computer, and off you go. And, if you're going to be using, a Mac or a PC, the only other thing you need is recording software. So for a Mac, you have to you can just use GarageBand, right? It's the standard app that shows up on the Mac desktop, works just as well. If you're on PC, I recommend a program called Audacity. It's free to download, has a ton of features for whether you're a beginner or you are like an experienced audio engineer. It works really, really well. It's really easy to use. But that's it. That's all the equipment that you need. We'll talk about hosting platforms after we record. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. So other than that, kind of get into the next part here is just topic selection, right? There's a lot of different ways you can go, but basically, your show, think about your audience. Who is your audience for your show and what are the things that they're interested in? All right. And the engineers, everyone is not going to be your audience, but your audience can still be as specific or broad as you want it to be. And so what I mean by that is If you just want to target business owners, or even more specific than that, if you want to target like restaurant owners, or maybe even you want to go specific further, you want to target like Mexican restaurant owners, right? You can gear your podcast titles. And so I don't know, I used Mexican food as this. We had Mexican food in the office. I think that's probably it. But you can build your topics in your episode list by just thinking about what is important to those people. Now, you can go beyond that. You can also target people who work in Mexican restaurants. You can target people who have friends or know people who work in the industry, whatever it is. But you want to have that core focus in mind, build your audience around them. What are the topics that they're thinking about? What's keeping them up at night? All that kind of stuff. So on our end, what is the what is your target market? What is the overall concept of your show? And so for us here at Spotlight Branding, our target market is law firm owners, financial firm owners, CPAs, financial advisors, stuff like that. And so we do marketing. So the majority of our topics are going to be around marketing and law firm marketing, financial firm marketing. And at the end of the day, what are our episodes going to be about? All right. I see people in the chat over on TikTok. I'm not, you people, I know who you are. I'll let everyone handle it in there. But if someone out there does have a legitimate question, I'll catch it. But going through, so, for me, I'm always thinking about different ways to address our audience. I hear people in the office talking about interactions that they have with our client or potential clients or whatever. And I'm also looking at different industry blogs, stuff like that. And I'm seeing what conversations are happening out there. Now, for this week, it's kind of a special episode because internally, we just dropped our 2023 legal marketing trends report. And so that's what my episode this week's going to be about. It's going to be about announcing it. It's going to hit through some, highlights and stuff that's inside that report, as I'm going to try to pull it up here and find it, because that was the one thing I forgot to pull up here. But, and so this episode will just hit on some highlights from that report, record it, go through it, boom. You don't have to script out your entire episode. It's okay if you take some pauses, if you have a couple of uhs or ums in here. Again, like, audience isn't going to come into your show expecting this high-end, super professional broadcast. What's most important is your audio quality and general show structure. Just have a direction of where you're going. So make sure you have a good quality microphone. Don't make it sound like you're recording in a bathroom on your, on an old like Nokia cell phone where it sounds like you're just calling into a radio show. Have a decent microphone. Have, a good topic, good direction in mind for that. All right. So going to go in now. We'll get started, set up the recording, and just kind of jump in. One thing I will show you guys real quick. So we have Max here, and that's not what I wanted to do. Let me see here. So we have Max here. So obviously we're going to use GarageBand, and an easy hack that you can do with your recording to create these templates in GarageBand so that you don't have to really set up volume. You don't have to get your mixes right every single time. You can set up these different tracks here, and each track will be a various of your show, right? So for us, this master track down here goes up automatically when you share the automations and stuff like that in GarageBand. But we intro for our intro music bed. We have an outro track for our outro bed. And then we have this track up here, which is going to be for the main audio recording. So we have this intro track here. We have an ad that plays at the front, and then we have the intro music bed. That's going to be the same every single time. So instead of coming in and spending a couple minutes getting everything drag and dropping and getting the volumes and the fade outs and everything right, I can just have this template pulled up and ready to go. And it just reverts back to that template every time I export the new episode. So it's a simple thing there. But the only thing left to do mute these tracks, because otherwise it's going to distract you when you're recording. But mute those tracks, get on your main recording track, start where you're going to pick up, and hit record. All right. I'm going to do this a little bit differently because I'm going to use the audio from the stream and put it in the episode. But obviously, most of you aren't going to be doing it that way. You're going to just come straight into GarageBand, or if you have a video component for your podcast, I record on Zoom, and Zoom will give you a video file, but it will also give you an audio only file. I usually just drag and drop that audio right here when I'm done, but we'll look at what that looks like a little bit towards the end. So other than that, I will stop that here. I'm going to just come in and we're going to just record this episode like I would. Let me make sure I have all my notes in front of me here. And cool. So basically what I'm going to end up doing is after this stream is over, I am going to basically get the audio and the video file from the streaming platform that we're using. I'm going to drag and drop it, and then I'm going to upload it. But I will show you kind of what that process is like also before we wrap up. All right. I'm going to see here, I'm going to get ready, and then we'll just dive into the recording. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Law Firm Marketing Minute. I'm your host, John Henson, and this week, maybe you've already listened to this episode because you joined us on the live stream on Thursday, but this week is a big episode because it is the launch of our 2023 Legal Marketing Trends Report. Now, if you participated in it, or if you were a client of ours here at Spotlight Branding, you may have gotten early access, so some of you may be a couple of weeks ahead, but for everybody else, this is the week, I guess last week was the week when it went live. And so we're going to just preview it a little bit here for those of you who haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And I'm going to tell you what you can do to go and get it this week. So like last year, we surveyed a ton of law firm owners, several thousand, got back a few hundred responses. The data was great. We were really proud of how it turned out. A lot of people were really excited with how it turned out. And for this year's report, we wanted to do it bigger. We wanted to do it better. We surveyed even more people. We got more of our partners involved, other vendors that work in the legal space, got them to share the survey with their audience. Several of them did. And we more than doubled the number of survey responses from last year's report. And honestly, I was a little concerned when I saw those numbers because I didn't know if the data from last year's report would almost be invalidated, and be skewed in such a way that it, almost completely reset everything that we did. But what I found is that a lot of the numbers kind of stayed the same. There were some slight shifts, but nothing so dramatic that it made me feel like last week's data or last year's data was messed up in any way, right? So last year, there was the big theme of how lawyers felt like they didn't have a lot of time. This year, the bigger concern was around profitability and making sure that they were making enough money and being able to charge the appropriate amount, right? So they want to become more profitable. Law firms want to become more profitable. Great. Yes. Something to strive for. Absolutely. 100%. But they also want to work with higher quality clients. So the idea there is like, they don't want to just take every client in and get as much revenue as possible. They want to do it smarter, right? They want to increase their profits, but they want to enjoy the work that they're doing along the way, right? They want to have the types of clients they want to work with. They want to bring in the higher case values that they want to work with, right? So the other thing that we noticed is that there is still a huge opportunity out there for law firms to generate a ton of referrals. Referrals are huge in the legal world, but at least according to this survey, there's still a ton of growth and a ton of things that law firms aren't doing in order to maximize that growth. So just kind of going through, some of the stuff that we found. A big part that we wanted to look at was like, how much are law firms actually growing, right? We talk a lot about the pandemic, a lot of employee turnover, hear sometimes that a lot of small businesses are closing and stuff like that. But what we found was that 94% of law firms saw some growth, even if it was like 1%. 94% of law firms indicated that they grew in 2022 versus 2021. And that's incredible, right? The majority, a third, saw about a quarter, 20 to 25% growth, which is awesome. But again, only 6% said they lost revenue over that period. And so it was really, really cool to see that from the legal industry. Another question that we had last year that I asked again this year was why law firms think that they lose business. And this actually, the responses here were actually pretty even, which is pretty crazy. There was about a third apiece between thinking that a competitor has more experience, the competitor charges lower rates, or that a competitor has lower marketing. And, there are a lot of reasons for why you think that, you lost out. Maybe someone is charging lower rates. And if that's the case, it's fine. That's someone you didn't want to work with anyway. Maybe a competitor has better marketing that makes them look more experienced or the better fit. And that's an easily fixable problem. Maybe it's just the competitor has better marketing that keeps them top of mind with people and they ended up using them over you again, which is very fixable. And then, maybe something that we can't help with personally, but I know that a lot of firms struggle with this is the overall client experience and the customer service aspect of it. So different things to check out there. But in going through the actual marketing that people are doing, and I want to come down here. Where is it at? Here we go. So a big part last year is we wanted to look and see like what people were doing with their content marketing. And we asked them, about the services that we provide, but we also asked about SEO, pay-per-click ads, stuff like that people can, that people are doing in their law firms or that maybe people aren't doing, want to see what their opinions on, why they weren't doing stuff like that. So we asked last year about email marketing, email newsletters. Last year, 43% said that they were not sending an email newsletter at all. However, 65%, 2/3 of law firms this year reported that they are sending email newsletters on a regular basis. And that's key, right? Not one every quarter, not one just kind of whenever they think about it, but at least monthly. And I thought that was really good because that's going to be one of the biggest drivers of referrals for law firms. And so if you're listening and you're not doing that, 2/3 of your competitors are already doing it. So you're falling behind. But aside from that, it's a great way to drive referrals. It's a great way to market to your current audience. There's all kinds of studies out there that, I've seen anywhere from 5 times to 10 times more expensive to generate new leads than it is to market to your current audience. And this is the absolute hands down easiest way to do it. When we asked why they didn't send these email newsletters, 40% said that they didn't have the time, which was down a little bit from last year, but still the biggest response overall. We'll probably do some email marketing workshops later this year, but again, it doesn't have to be a super time consuming process. It can be really, really simple, or you can just, outsource it. Social media. These numbers did not change a lot. Still about 85% of law firms are on Facebook, about 70% on LinkedIn, about half on Twitter and Google Business, about 40% on Instagram. The biggest change was law firms on TikTok. Last year, it was only 9%. This year, it doubled to 18%. And, we've got a ton of content about this on our website, but TikTok is where everything is going. Everything's video based. I mean, we're doing stuff like this right here. It's where things are going in the video based content and all kinds of stuff. Just being the future and being a good place to establish a presence with your firm, build that credibility. That's really important along the way. So if your firm is not on TikTok, great opportunity. The time is running out to be on TikTok and be ahead, right? You don't want to do, and I get it, like legal industry is stereotypically 5 years behind everything. Like legal is just now really starting to embrace Instagram, even though that was like pre-pandemic, in terms of popularity. Instagram is still peaking right now, but legal is just now getting into it. You shouldn't make the same mistake with TikTok. It is really going to be a good platform. Moving on here to video. So last year, only about 25% of law firms said that they did not do video, or said they didn't have video. 65% indicated some sort of regular, or sorry, I misread all of that. This year, only 25% said they didn't have video. Last year, it was like something way higher. I think it was actually reversed, honestly, where it was like almost 2/3 of law firms didn't have video. Now only a quarter do not have video. And so that's a really, really huge jump in terms of video usage. And when I say that, I'm talking like video FAQs, regularly posting video, whether it's on your website or on social media, of you addressing frequently asked questions, and stuff like that. The big cinematic brand video is fine. That's usually just a one-off investment, though. Doesn't really count. It lives on your homepage, fine, but you're not going to get a ton of prolonged exposure and traction out of it. The key is regularly creating those FAQ videos, putting them up on your website, sharing them on social media. And God, if you want a good TikTok strategy, just do that. You got a bunch of FAQs on your website already. Download them to your phone, post them on TikTok. It's really all you got to do. You don't have to dance. You don't have to lip sync. You don't have to do anything crazy. That's it. Just post those FAQs, because people are on TikTok and they're learning, and there's so many different channels about all kinds of stuff that you can learn about. And it's so good. So blogging, 78% of law firms have blogs. Of that 78%, about 2/3 have a vendor or staff member who writes it for them. 36% of lawyers still try to write the blogs themselves, and they still complain about not having enough time. This is an easy thing to delegate. You don't have to be a lawyer to create legal content. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but we have a team of copywriters here who do that all the time. They create amazing content, and it's legally accurate, right? It's a lot of research. It's stuff that the average consumer is not going to be able to look up themselves and synthesize on their own, but you outsource it to a skilled copywriter who does this sort of thing for a living, and they create a bunch of good content. So outsource your blogging if you're doing it yourself. Podcasting is another big thing. So one thing that we saw is that the number of people who wanted to have their own podcast but felt like it was too complicated actually went up 15 percentage points from last year, whereas the people who indicated that they had no interest at all dropped nearly 20 points. So the interest in having a podcast is growing. There's still that hurdle of doing it, and that's why we're doing this workshop. We're going to be doing this workshop monthly, because this was, especially coming from the Trends Report, one of the biggest changes overall in terms of what people were interested in and what that. And so 17% of law firms do have their own podcast, which is great for them, and they're publishing regularly. We have several clients that we produce their podcast for them, and they're really good, and you should definitely try to check those out. I need to get the media network up so we can have those podcasts up and running pretty quickly. The last thing was just several different metrics around websites. A lot of law firm websites are doing really well right now. It seems like a couple of outliers in terms of offering a lead magnet or offering, having a clear call to action. That information, though, is in the report. But the biggest thing that we saw, and we'll wrap it up here on this episode, is just the referrals. Last year, we asked like what percentage of a law firm's business comes from referral. The biggest one was about a third said more than 20%, but less than 40% of business. And only 2% of law firms said that 100% of their business is referral based. And again, this was the big thing there. There's a huge, huge, huge opportunity for law firms to double their referrals. They can do it through various marketing strategies. And I expect explain what all of that means in the trends report for this year. So if you want to download it, if you're watching the stream, the URL is flying by right there. But if you want to, if you're listening to the episode on Monday or whatever day you downloaded the podcast, go to spotlightbranding.com/trends23, trends23 to get that resource there. And it's a huge thing. If you're going to be at ABA Tech Show this week, we're going to have some physical copies at our booth. Come by, grab one. We'd love to chat with you and meet you there as well. But that's going to do it. I could talk for hours about all the data that's in this trends report, but I wanted to give you guys a quick preview of what was in it. And definitely would love for you to check it out. Also, check out that survey that was in the ad at the top of the show at spotlightbranding.com/pod survey. But that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks so much for joining us. And that's it. That's all you got to do. So in terms of post-production, I'm going to go in, I'm going to chop out, this stuff and the stuff at the beginning from the stream, but then I can just drag and drop that right into that GarageBand template. Now, when we talk about, what it looks like to upload, you're going to want to have a podcast host. And there are a ton of them out there. You can't really go wrong with any of them. We've used Libsyn in the past. I know there's a couple of others, but we currently use a program called Buzzsprout. And I will open this up here. Boom. So this is what the interface looks like. And this is what you're going to need in order to get your podcast syndicated out to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, wherever. And Buzzsprout, I really like because the user interface is super, super easy, right? So you come here, you can drag and drop this episode. And while it's uploading, you can schedule it for the future, or you can just straight up publish it immediately, however you like to do it. But then you just put in your episode title, you write in a quick description, make sure that you put in any links to your social channels or any links that you mentioned in the podcast episode itself. And other than that, it's pretty simple. You save the episode details and it goes out, right? So you do have to set up all of these directories beforehand. But again, one of the things that I like about Buzzsprout is that they walk you through it and they make it really easy for you to do it. And so with Buzzsprout, you can get lined up on so many different platforms. And I'm kind of neglecting TikTok here a little bit. I'll kind of put this in front of you. There we go. There. And maybe you guys can see that there. Well, nope. Wait, where's the computer monitor? What am I looking for? Screw it. I tried. It's just, you guys are just out of luck today. But yeah, so, again, if you're on the mainstream, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, another big one, then they have a couple of smaller things. But again, everywhere that you can syndicate your episode is going to be exposure for you. So, yeah, other than that, once you're uploaded, you're done. Share on your social networks. Again, if you have the video side of it, you can upload the video version to YouTube. I know YouTube's actually even testing some podcasting platforms, so you might be able to just do everything in there. But yeah, other than that, that's going to do it for this little workshop here. Would love your feedback. What would you like to know more about for the next one? And if you enjoyed this, we're probably going to do this every month to start, but we'll go from there. Maybe we'll look at some other different marketing things to shop as well. But yeah, that's it, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.